Good morning to all of you. Excited to be here in Tel Aviv, even though it's not my first time. Just to understand, how many actually people from the crowd here are actually developing games? Oh, nice, nice. Cool. So first, probably I'll introduce you ourselves. So I'm Suf. I'm from DAU-UP. I'm heading the business development team. For those of you who don't know, DAU-UP, basically we provide user acquisition solutions based on strong technology which we develop internally for games only. And for the next probably 1 hour, we're going to deal with user acquisition. And we've decided user acquisition, obviously it's a huge topic. You can probably speak for 3 days on user acquisition. We've decided to speak on strategy, on what are the things which probably, or what are the elements, the things that those guys are taking consideration on a day-to-day in order to define their ongoing strategy. I brought a few specialists with me in order to pass this hour through. So on my left, Lloyd Melnick, which is from Amaya, is now the VP social of Amaya. Lloyd has been in the industry since the industry was born, if I can say. Basically, before I had my bar mitzvah, which is, let's say, more than 20 years ago. He's been around. He's been an executive of 3 different companies that were acquired. He was leading growth at Spooky Lab before they were acquired by Zynga. So he was basically launching Hit It Rich and dealing with all the growth. And now he has joined Amaya to grow their social activity. Oren has been in the industry since the year of 2000, has been establishing few companies dealing with or enhancing, let's say, AAA gaming user experience. And after a few years of doing VP marketing of bwin, has launched ClicksMob, which is ClickWall. Sorry. I see the ClicksMob guy over there. That's why I said ClicksMob. ClickWall, which is a cross-exchange platform, was acquired by Playtika a few years later, and now Oren is basically leading the marketing of Caesars. And Lee from LuckyFish Games. So Lee has been in the industry, or from LuckyFish, basically since day one. She's dealing with marketing both from the acquisition side and also from retargeting side. She is marketing enthusiastic. She really likes to speak about user acquisition. She said that if I will have no more questions, I will just pass on the mic to her.
I can talk. That's okay.
And one thing I can say about Lee, that she really likes, let's say, very high strong vehicles, and among the rest she has a driving license for 4 different tanks.
5.
Yeah, 5 different tanks, yeah, which is in Israel it's, I don't know if it's usual or no, it's common, but yeah. Cool guys. So let's start dealing. We will try to pick a few topics from which dealing again with user acquisition strategy. We will try to leave also 10 minutes for questions for you guys. Probably the first question that I would like to ask you guys is, looking back at 2015, how was this year for you? I mean, what has been a game changer in 2015 comparing to 2014? In terms of user acquisition?
I can start?
Go
I
ahead.
said I love to speak, so I can start. So first of all, it's nice to meet you all. LuckyFish Games, a little bit about us. We developed a social casino app called OMG Fortune, like oh my god, Fortune. It's currently available on Facebook, Android, and iOS. 2015 has been a very exciting year for LuckyFish in general, as far as product, marketing, and overall. Suf asked earlier how many game developers there are here. So we are a live example for a successful small startup who started very small and is actually now really 2015 we saw fundamental growth. I think one of the game changers for us in 2015 was really being able to bring unique content to the table. It's such a crazy and flooded industry with so many social casino apps looking exactly the same. For us, 50% of our games are based on traditional slot machines, but they are the best slot machines on Facebook. And 50% of our games are unique social games. Let's say, for example, take scratch cards, Wheel of Fortune, color matching game, which is if you consider a Candy Crush in a slot machine having like a fortune baby. So these are all unique content games that we developed internally, all from the game mechanics to the actually production. So for us being able to use unique content that our players can't find anywhere else has been a great benefit for user acquisition, because it really gives us unique anima, and we're seeing great results from there as well. Also being able to optimize our registration funnel, I think that's something that you must put a lot of emphasis on as a game developer, and really understanding the entire funnel from the moment a user sees your ad until the moment that he installed the app, and of course, obviously, after that. So really optimizing it, that was also a game changer for us in 2015.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Israel. Game changer for us. So I'll point out a few things. The most important one for us in Caesar is actually internal structure change in Playtika, where Playtika moved last year from a centralized marketing department providing marketing services to all of Playtika games into a standalone business units, Caesar, Slotomania. So each studio has its own now P&L and business units. And this drastically enhanced the focus that we have on user acquisition for a specific game. So if we were before a part of the mix of user acquisition mainly focusing on the 8-ton gorilla Slotomania, and we were always second in line. So I would say that the focus that we have now as a standalone studio has drastically improved our user acquisition results and focus. I will also point out Google, a new channel that is becoming fairly fast, very significant channel for us, and provided us way more flexibility in terms of how we control the budget and distribute our budget. So we have more alternative. It's great. And I will also point out that we probably for the first time hit success in ASO. So we had several great months with the fairly significant organic lift that pushed us forward. But as I mentioned, for me, the number one game changer is the additional focus, and that's what made this year so far phenomenal for us.
I think if you compare 2015 to 2014, biggest game changer I've seen is kind of the movement to the portfolio approach from the single product. So in the past, can't speak for you, but you were probably focusing primarily on a Slotomania. IGT would be focusing on Double Down. Zynga was focusing on Hit or Rich. And then this year you saw Zynga come out with Wizard of Oz, and that's actually where the majority of its user acquisition spend went. And if you were at either of the first two presentations this morning, almost all of the major publishers are now doubling or more the size of their portfolio. And I know when I was at Zynga, that was the biggest driver for that is user acquisition. It's very hard to acquire users for a mature game. Actually, even a semi-mature game, Hit or Rich is only a couple of years old, but when you launch a new game, it's a lot easier. And then I think the second part of that, and it's related, is the movement to licenses and properties. So when you do have additional SKUs and new products, being able to put a Wizard of Oz on it, a Willy Wonka, Princess Bride, really drives down your user acquisition costs, probably 20 to 30%. So you combine that with going after fresh users, and again, if I look at what's changed from 2014 to 2015, that to me is the biggest development.
Oren, you've just mentioned the fact that you're probably a part of a big group. There are many studios in the group, and let's face it, like when people say Playtika, probably Slotomania is the first studio comes in mind. How is it for you? I mean, do you see the fact being a part of a big corporate give you an advantage? How do you use it to achieve better results, and how do you combine it with your UA strategy?
I feel that Playtika today is structured in a very, in a great way to help each studio achieve its goals. So the separation between and the focus of each studio as a standalone studio, a standalone P&L, created a very friendly, competitive environment. And as in every other industry in the world where there is competition, the quality improves and increases. So I think there is a very friendly competition, a very healthy competition between Playtika Studio that forces you to be on the top of your game, because you always want, you don't want to be the last in the benchmark of the end of the month. Having said that, while we are competing against each other, we also have a very healthy knowledge sharing between us, which helps you to avoid pitfalls, which helps you to avoid, which helps you to better fine tune. You can always, look at what Slotomania have done everything, right? So you can always look at what Slotomania have done in the past and get some, and you can always consult with other colleagues from other games. So I feel that today Playtika have managed to create a structure that is very healthy, create a very competitive environment, which is great for the business, while keeping a friendly knowledge-sharing environment, which also is very important. So I feel that we have now reached a very healthy organizational structure in Playtika.
Right. Let's speak about geo growth. I mean, one of the questions that a lot of get being asked is, which other markets are attractive beside of, let's say, Tier 1 or beside of US? Is it just US for you guys? I mean, do you see more potential outsider?
I think obviously the US, the Tier 1 English-speaking countries are still the main focus and main markets. As was discussed here in the recent presentations, I think Tier 2, the Latin America, the Singapore markets are fast growing. Also, we spoke about Asia, but Asia is a big challenge because you have to have the right partner internally to successfully help you penetrate that market. What we do is we say, okay, let's take X% of our budgets, use it for T1 acquisition, and always have a small percent of your budget testing new markets, and really test it in order to see where your product will be successful, because each product reacts differently to different markets.
What are, if I may ask again, like, what are the fundamental, let's say, differences in your UA strategy on Tier 2 versus Tier 1?
Well, actually, we decided this year to ignore everything that is not Tier 1. We're not doing at all, generally, we're not doing anything that is not Tier 1. We feel that as a fairly young game, we still have a lot of Tier 1 market to acquire, and we basically like to do things all the way through. So if we would like to go to a different language, we would like to try to localize the app, we would like to localize the marketing, we would like to localize everything. So we currently feel that we have such a huge potential ahead that we basically stopped doing incentivize, we stopped doing burst, and we stopped doing anything that is not Tier 1. I'm guessing that once we'll be heavily saturated, we'll further explore tier 2 and Tier 3 opportunities, but currently we have still a huge growth and potential ahead of us in Tier 1.
And at Maya, we're actually taking largely the opposite approach, in part because we are coming late to the game. So we're going to be competing in the Tier 1 market. You can't not compete in the Tier 1 market. And as Adam had said in the last presentation, we actually do have some very exciting things planned. But we're really also going to be focusing on Tier 2 and Tier 3, in part because we have offices in 50 countries. That gives us a competitive advantage over some of the smaller social casino operators who don't have offices in a market like India or Pakistan or wherever. But also, we're going to take the approach. I think the localization is incredibly important to us and to succeed even in the Tier 2 and Tier 3 markets. So we're looking at using IP from those markets, using celebrities from those markets, and again, trying to kind of couple it on to what we're doing at the parent company level so we can kind of amortize that cost if we pick up IP for social, so we can use it in what we're doing in real money and the other Amaya businesses.
So speaking of celebrities, I mean, do you think we will see more celebrities in 2016 on the social casino? I mean, will we see Kate Upton in the social casino?
You will from us. Maybe not Kate Upton in particular, but you also might see the Brazilian Kate Upton or the Russian Kate Upton. But you definitely see, I think because of the Kim Kardashian success, everyone in the social space, from social casino to every other genre, is looking at bringing in celebrities. And just talking to them, I know they're talking to a lot of other companies. So I think you will be seeing a lot more of them.
But I think that the secret is making your own players feel like celebrities. I mean, really entering those competition layers inside the games and really making, I mean, obviously Cape Upton will be a great hit. But again, it's really about making your own players feel like celebrities, making them, you know, when they win a tournament, when they, you know, take the leaderboard, the first place in the leaderboard, how do you make them feel? Just make them feel like celebrities.
Well, in terms of brand, I also we have few branded games, and we're probably going to have few more. I think there is a fine line of finding the business to justify the business terms where you're trying to use a celebrity, or sometimes you're so eager to have a celebrity or a branded game that you lose sight of ROI or the business logic behind the royalties and all of that stuff. So definitely we are encouraging and we love to have branded games and use, you know, celebrities, but it needs to be done in a way that, at least the way we look at it, that it makes business sense.
Right. Let's speak about UA challenges. What is the, let's say, the #1 challenge for you guys today to when it comes to acquiring new users?
I think the main challenge will always be conversion. I mean, how do I convert paid users into paying users? As I see it, there are two options. One option is that I can start knocking on their doors, asking them for money, but we tried that and it has a negative ROI due to travel expenses, but not really. I mean, it's really having a killer product that will help you convert those users into paid users and really seeing the ROI. I mean, that's the biggest challenge. That will always be the biggest challenge for us.
Challenges. Well, we always feel that we are under budget. So it's funny to say because we have a huge budget, but we always feel that we're under budget. It's very rare that we have a budget and we cannot spend it.
Let's talk about it right after.
So,
Yes.
so from my view, my biggest personal, from where I see it, my biggest problem is budget control. We have a lot of, you know, I'm sure everybody has, you know, tracking issues, analytics issues, and, you know, we don't see all of the data we would like to see, automation and so on. But generally, from where I sit is mainly budget.
And I can't disagree with either of them, but I think from our perspective, it's also the increasing CPIs and what that's doing for the non-slots games. You know, because slots largely has the LTV to justify it, and it's driving up the CPIs for the other, but most of the other casino games, from table games to poker, whatever, do not generate that type of revenue. So just kind of figuring out a UA strategy. I mean, everyone's trying to figure out a UA strategy to deal with rising CPIs, but again, as slots continues and there's new launches from all the companies to drive those up even more, how the non-slots companies can, you know, stay relevant in the paid side of the space.
Right. And Leah, so you're nodding. I guess everybody will agree that the rising of CPIs is one of the challenges. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with, let's say, with the competitive CPIs out there?
And for us, it's why we're looking at tier 2 and tier 3 markets, and also celebrities and IP. Yeah, in my past experiences, I think that we saw a 20 to 30% reduction in our cost per acquisition, and I guess it does depend on the model and, you know, what your other, you know, costs are. But for us, that was kind of the best way to deal with it and to grow new products. Another way, you know, as I mentioned earlier, that I'm seeing a lot of companies do, and I think it's really innovative, is creating what I would almost call feeder apps, where you create a suite of apps like a solitaire that might generate a lot of users quickly, cheaply, and then if you have a good conversion path to your poker product, to your slots product, as a way of kind of alleviating going after the same audience that 20 people who are spending $100,000 a day are doing.
You want to say how do you
Cope with
share,
CPIs?
yeah, you want to share how you deal with that?
First of all, I mean, the CPIs are crazy. I mean, they're insane. Paying, you know, the earlier presentation he spoke about, Elad spoke about $10 per install. It's a crazy industry, really. But what you can do is really, first of all, what you have to do, I already spoke about it, but really optimizing your registration funnel, making sure that you're using segmentations, giving the right people the right content, and really testing new channels. Oren spoke about Google. We also participate in the beta for the Google social casino game, so we are also seeing great results from there. And again, mobile networks, everything that can reduce the CPI a little bit and has, again, test it, yeah? Don't go opening thousands of campaigns on mobile networks, but use small budgets to see if it works. But really, I mean, optimize your own product and registration funnel and always look for new channels.
As I mentioned before, we've hit success with organic traffic this year. So actually, we had a fairly unique experience this year where our effective CPI went down this year. So, and also our focus shifted from last year to from volume and CPI to we're more or less looking only on ROI this year, and our ROI improved. So we're returning the money that we're investing in user acquisition faster than last year. So generally, I cannot overly complain.
Yeah, Lee just mentioned the testing new partners. I mean, basically today the market is flooded. Like there are so many media providers out there.
Thousands.
Are you still using the same amount of let's say, third-party companies?
Only DAU-UP.
You get 2 points for that.
And basically, what's your criteria of testing new partner?
I think, well, I mean, the market is flooded. I mean, it's enough to see the amount of publishers and networks here. And it's very easy to get distracted and get lost in the sea of publishers. But I think that it's very important to always test new partners, because you have to stay on top of media trends. And sometimes your internal acquisition will be amazing, and sometimes it won't. So you always have to have several partners, so you have KPIs. But again, you have to move very fast. You have to very quickly understand the quality of traffic. For example, we developed our own analytics programs based on mathematical models that can help us very fast evaluate the quality of traffic. But we're constantly testing new partners. But again, be smart, okay? Don't waste all your money quickly.
We're trying to work with not too many partners. So we're working for many, many years with like 3-4 big partners and an additional 5 or 6 medium-sized partners. And we always have a testing budget, and we're trying to run 2 or 3 new traffic sources tests.
How often do you do it? Like,
we're trying to do like 2 or 3 tests a month. But we're not going crazy, testing a bazillion traffic. In our size, we also need to think a lot about the operational side of stuff. We need that are both CRM and monetization and acquisition it's like a factory. So we need the operation side. If we'll work like, potentially theoretically you can have a better ROI if you work with 100 partners, right? Because everybody will work on a smaller scale and will make, better ROI. But then you have to think about the operational side of things. So we also try to make it, semi-automated and easier for us. So we're not going crazy with too many partners.
So we're just relaunching now, so we're in a somewhat different situation. So initially, we're only going to work with one partner. In my past life, it was very much like you were just describing, in that we always try to limit the number of partners, so we'd have a few core partners and then maybe be testing 1 or 2 a month, even when our budgets were over $100,000, $200,000 a day. What we found is if you start segmenting your ads too much, you become irrelevant for all the partners, and you don't get enough support. You don't have it. You're not able to build up the relationship. You're not able to build up the channel as well. So you always have to keep it fresh by testing new partners, but it's also important to make sure that you're keeping your business relevant for your partners.
And in general, like what's your approach of keeping the, let's say, the UA budget internally versus using other providers? I know this question is something that personally I get to be asked a lot, and I know every, let's say, new developer out there always asks this question.
We kept it very performance-based, and we treated our internal development just like we would an external partner, and looked at the return on ad spend there versus on the partner. In my past life, it was probably it fluctuated between 20 and 30% was internal, and the rest was networks and agencies. But it fluctuated driven by the performance. We didn't have a set, this much goes to us, this much goes to externals.
Well, conceptually, we like the current situation where we have our budget more or less split between internally and partners. Again, it's part of creating a supportive and competitive environment. When you have few big partners and internal traffic, you have to be in the top of your game each month. You have to compete every day and every week between the other partners and the internal traffic. So we like to keep generally this balance. Probably as the budget will go higher, we will have some long-term ambitions to shift additional budget internally to avoid paying you your commission as much as possible.
Thanks,
But no, generally we like the current structure.
I can say, I always want to say something. I mean, I can say that for us it was, it's a little bit different than obviously PokerStars and Playtika, because LuckyFish Games, I don't know if you know that, we're 30 people. So it's a different story. We were actually faced with this decision whether we'll use it internally or externally. My advice to you is that if you're small and you need to decide where to put your resources and energies, use external partners. Only at the stage that you can cope with all the complexity of having the acquisition internally, then get it internally. Because up until then, it takes a lot of resources. That's my advice.
Lloyd, the next one is for you. What's your approach to maximize the cross-selling opportunity between the real money world and the social casino environment?
So I actually try to keep it very separate. First of all, a large part of our base on the social is the U.S. So that actually might change in the near future, but you're talking probably about 60% of our revenue comes from the U.S. So there is no cross-selling opportunity. At PokerStars, and actually Adam mentioned it in the last presentation, we actually have 3 free-to-play products. So there's the social team, which has what I call kind of a traditional social poker product, like a WSOP, like a Zynga Poker, except better. Just kidding. Then we have what's called the freemium group, which has a free-to-play version of the real money product, and we have that for PokerStars and for Full Tilt. And those are more based on being practice, having a conversion path up to real money. Given that this is a $3.5 billion industry growing to $4.5 billion, our focus is really just on the social side of the business. We don't actually take real money into our business plan or anything. That's more for the other free-to-play products in the company.
Basically, this question is for all. Do you find this audience to be similar? Like, are the real money players necessarily can convert into being social players?
I think for us, and this is actually more from my experience running VIP over at Zynga, the big crossover was between land-based and social. There was a huge correlation. All of our top VIPs, literally 100% had played in a land-based casino in the past 6 months. Something like 86% of all VIPs had played in a land-based casino in the last 6 months. Huge crossover there. Real money, it actually seems much more segregated, and I'm not saying that kind of from the PokerStars side, but what I saw when I was at Zynga in New Jersey, in Nevada, where you had real money operators and social operators, that's really a different player, but the social player is very much a land-based casino player. I
100% agree. We see a lot of correlation. We work with with Caesar, the land-based, we see a beautiful correlation between the land-based casino and social. And the online real money and social is not exactly the same audience. These guys, you know, are looking to make a profit or the thrill of gambling real money. And these guys are more looking for socially reward and progress in the game and entertainment. So I totally agree.
Lee, just so you don't feel...
There's nothing for me
just
to say about that.
Just so you don't feel
These
outside.
days we're building the OMG Fortune Casino. No, I'm just kidding.
So let me ask you this. We talk about brands, and also recent in Adam's presentation, the use of brand and IPs is growing. You've been recently added Beverly Hills to your game. Looks amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
What's your expectations from this move? I mean, how do you think it will affect your UA strategy?
I mean, we talked about about branded games, and a week ago we launched the Beverly Hills 90210. It's our first branded game. We were very excited to collaborate with CBS Network and to produce the games. It was just a week ago, so it's very fresh, but it's already really exceeded all our expectations. I mean, it was amazing. We got some very enthusiastic and nostalgic comments from our players, saying how much they love the characters and the game. And if you hadn't know that, actually Beverly Hills, the show itself, celebrated 25 years anniversary last week. So it was a great timing for us to launch the game. Now you know. Yeah, it's been that long. He looks pretty good today too. Yeah, he looks good.
But again, what's your expectations? I mean, how do you think it will affect your activity?
I mean, yeah, we talked about a lot about using branded games for reducing the CPIs, because when you use such known content and no characters, well, obviously it has a lot more conversion rate than just using, you know, a 777 slot and saying bonus. So we are seeing the CPI being reduced. We're seeing great results as far as conversion as far as re-engagement too, but it's still very fresh, so you can ask me again in about a month or two.
Guys, what do you think about offline marketing? Do you think it will take more place in your activity? How do you think it will enhance your digital activity?
Well, again, in our scale, fairly new game, and still have what we hope to be true, a lot of potential growth in the traditional performance-based online marketing. We're not in the offline play. Having said that, we are exploring offline cooperation with real money casinos in Vegas and with our parent company on a very focused offline campaigns. We're not in the branding, TV, radio yet.
How come? Like, you look at other genres, it's quite popular, it's working quite well. You see them all over, like especially, let's say, on mid-core games, you see them all over on billboards, on TV.
Well, first it requires skill that potentially we don't have yet. Second, it's very hard to measure, and we are very, we like to measure everything. So there's a lot of wishful thinking with offline branding campaign. Very challenging to measure ROI, and we like to measure everything. So it's very hard for us, even from the way we are, from our DNA is performance-based, measurement-based marketing. So it's hard for us. Having said that, we realize that someday, when we're heavily saturated, we'll probably be forced to go there. Slotomania started to do steps last year, and I think we'll continue this year and the year to come with the offline campaign. But I think that Caesar will get there only further down the road.
Let's look a bit on the future, 2016. What do you think is going to change the UA activity or your UA strategy in 2016? Any upcoming opportunity?
Obviously, we spoke about new markets, and successfully penetrating new markets. For us, it's really launching the mobile app into additional mobile platform other than Android and iOS. And that for itself would bring us a lot more user acquisition opportunities. So yeah. And we have a lot more plans, but I can't share it here. So.
Well, in terms of big ticket items, we still have a lot of growth in Google. We started it, it's doing fine, it shows a lot of potential. We still have probably, I'm guessing our Google budget will double themselves next year, and it will become probably the #2 channel in user acquisition for us. We also expanding, not in terms of countries and tier, but in terms of platforms. So we're going to have a .com version of the game, and potentially we're going to reach other smaller platforms. This could be a growth avenue for us, and we probably going to focus a lot on optimization because we have now just upgraded our tracking and the attribution, so we'll be able to see way more data than what we have seen before. We love data, we love to analyze the data, and so I think that we're probably going to have a lot of inner changes that will be significant for us, looking at the big picture in terms of a lot of optimization growth that was not available for us up until a few weeks ago.
And because we are relaunching now with our Jackpot Poker product, we're actually almost starting from scratch, so you're going to be seeing from us a lot of the basics. So nothing that creative, at least for the short term. It's going to be, doing user acquisition, but doing it right. And then I think what you're going to see more is, at least from us, is looking at the tier 2, tier 3 markets, and potentially looking at apps that in and of themselves do not generate that much revenue, but are actually acquisition tools for our core products.
Cool. So I understand we have 10 minutes left, right? Perfect. So yeah, I still have a lot of questions left, but I need to leave some time for you guys as well, so feel free to ask the guys here. Any questions from the crowd?
I know this is a user acquisition session, but you were talking about re-engagement and ROI at the end of the day. Can you talk a bit about, the considerations in shifting budget from, UA and re-engagement activities to increase the loyalty and return per user at the end of the day?
Well, generally it's pretty straightforward. The more saturated you are, the longer that you are alive, the logic split of budget will be spending more and more on retargeting, your paying user, your loyal user, and so on. Again, with retargeting, there is also some challenges in terms of measuring everything. It's not, you A/B test and you leave a test group and everybody knows the drill, but still it's not as accurate as we would like stuff to be. But generally, the longer you are running with your game, the more of a loyal paying user base you have, the more budget you'll have to spend on retargeting.